With the rapid progress of science and technology, the development vision of various countries has shifted from the ground to space. The vastness of the universe is also constantly attracting human exploration. With the deepening of space exploration, Earth's orbit is now teeming with artificial satellites. Artificial satellites can not only ensure communication, but also predict the weather, which is closely related to our lives. In the military field, the role of satellites is even more crucial. As a world power, the United States has 4,883 man-made satellites. Russia has 256. How many does China have? 1. American satellites. The achievements of the United States in the field of aerospace are obvious to all. Although during the US-Soviet hegemony period, the United States did not achieve the success of its first manned space flight. But in the subsequent lunar exploration program, the United States became the only country in the world to have completed a human landing on the moon. It can be said that the United States has strong capabilities in the aerospace field, and it cannot do without a large number of satellite support. For the exploration of the universe, as early as 1927, American scientists proposed that. In the nearly 100 years since then, the United States has launched a large number of satellites into space. So far, the number of U.S. satellites in Earth orbit has reached 4,883, the largest number in the world. Such a large number of satellites has also benefited the United States in various fields. It has also developed a variety of satellite application methods. The launch of a large number of satellites by the United States has also saturated the Earth's orbit. Many countries have proposed that the United States should reduce its satellite launch program. But, in fact, the United States continues to launch satellites every year and hopes to apply them in various fields. In addition to ensuring communication and forecasting the weather, satellites can also conduct scientific exploration, resource exploration, and military reconnaissance. The most important among them is naturally the application in the military field, which is also the main reason why countries launch satellites. In recent years, the United States has launched the largest number of satellites, but it is a company called Space Exploration Technologies. The CEO of SpaceX is Tesla founder Elon Musk. It is also a current spacecraft development company. We are dedicated to the development of space business. As early as 2008, SpaceX was awarded a contract by NASA, transporting cargo to the space station for NASA. During this time, SpaceX also developed the reusable Falcon 1 and Falcon 9. Reducing the cost of space transportation has also advanced the development of spacecraft. But beyond that, SpaceX's other business, Starlink, is what makes it most famous. According to Musk, SpaceX has launched more than 1,700 Starlink satellites into space. This year, around 200 more are planned to be launched. According to the early planning of Starlink, Starlink will eventually place more than 42,000 satellites in space, so that it can reach all parts of the world. The function of Starlink is to provide network to those areas where internet signals cannot be searched. It is not difficult to see that SpaceX's Starlink has provided a large number of satellites. For the United States, especially its huge number, it also threatens the safety of other countries' satellites in space. Some people point out that once they enter a wartime state, these satellites will be applied to the military field. In fact, Starlink has already begun to provide navigation services to the U.S. military. This improved the positioning accuracy of the U.S. military and ensured the reliability of wartime communications. During the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, the Starlink satellite provided communication guarantees to Ukraine. In the future, with the completion of the Starlink project, tens of thousands of satellites will be spread across the Earth's orbit. This will also bring certain unease to countries. However, judging from the current situation, The huge number of satellites in the United States does not pose any threat. How many satellites does China have? In 1970, China launched its first man-made satellite, Dongfang 1. This also marks an important step towards China's formal space exploration. In the field of aerospace, China started late, but it has achieved impressive results and delivered a satisfactory answer. From launching satellites to manned spaceflight to today's lunar exploration program, China's aerospace industry has achieved a breakthrough from 0 to 1. All of this depends on China's achievements in satellite technology. Only then can we ensure the success of the space mission. According to data from the U.S. Sea Satellite Database, the current number of satellites in orbit in China has reached 541, second in the world. In 2023, China completed 67 rocket launches, increasing the number of Chinese satellites. Speaking of Chinese satellites, we naturally cannot do without the topic of Beidou. Since the official launch of the satellite navigation program in 1994, in 30 years, Beidou has stood on the top of the world. Today's Beidou system is serving people around the world. As the fifth country in the world to launch artificial satellites, China has been developing satellites for more than 50 years. The former Dongfang 1 lost contact with the ground after 28 days of work, but it is still floating in orbit. Subsequently, the launch of the Dongfang to ensure the National Day military parade that year. It allows people across the country to watch live broadcasts in real time. Since then, China has made one breakthrough after another in communication satellites, and the technology has continued to improve. China's satellite launch mission has not been smooth sailing, and there have been failures and setbacks in between. But faced with these difficulties, the researchers did not back down. This also created the indomitable Chinese astronauts. From the Dongfang 1 to the Beidou system, Chinese satellites have gradually realized from scratch key breakthroughs in technological advancements. Later manned spaceflight was also based on the support of communication satellites. Only then can the task be successfully completed. Today, China's Chang'e lunar exploration program also relies on satellite support. This is especially true for a manned moon landing in 2030. I also believe that by then, the number of satellites in China will further increase. Even beyond the United States, the number of satellites determines the country's convenience in space exploration. Now that space in Earth's orbit is strained, China must also increase the frequency of its launch missions. On the other hand, the international community should also formulate space rules as soon as possible. China is also actively promoting the plan, hoping that all countries can reach an agreement. Keep the number of satellites in Earth orbit within a reasonable range. Only in this way can the orbit maintain normal operation, and there will be no collisions between satellites. In addition, the continuous development of China's space technology also signals that China is exploring deeper into the universe. This relies more on satellite support. The current construction of China's space station will also enable Chinese satellites to advance further. 3. Russia 256. After the disintegration of the Soviet Union, which once had a space race with the United States, a large part of its space heritage was inherited by Russia. However, Russia has not fully inherited the Soviet legacy, which also makes it a small number of satellites. There are currently only 256 in orbit. Don't underestimate these 256 satellites. With this number, Russia has also become one of the 3 countries with the largest number of satellites in the world. Although there is a gap of more than 10 times with the United States, Russia still has a significant presence in the space industry. You know, the first man-made satellite was launched by the former Soviet Union. This has also ushered in a new era of human exploration of space. With the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia experienced a brief standstill in its space development. This also has some impact on it. Due to this, Russia, which is able to wrestle with the United States in the field of space, is gradually falling behind others. However, in recent years, with the stable development of the Russian economy, the space program has also been included in the main national missions. Launching satellites is a top priority. At present, Russia is conducting a comprehensive review of its satellite projects and clarify the types of satellites to be launched in the future. According to the plan, Russia will meet the requirements for communication. For the purpose of navigation and monitoring the environment, a variety of satellites are launched. In 2022, Russia will also send its first Sphere satellite into space. This marks Russia's success in the field of communication satellites. This satellite, also known as the Russian version of Starlink, laid the foundation for Russia to complete satellite communication. You know, during the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, Ukraine was helped by the United States, received the communication convenience provided by Starlink, successfully turned the tide of the battle tactically. Russia is well aware of this and naturally wants to put Starlink into Russia's camp. To this end, Russia has proposed the Sphere plan, which will launch more than 600 communication satellites to ensure full coverage of Russia's communications. Although there is a large number gap between the Sphere and the star chain, but this is already a big deal for Russia. In addition to this, Roscosmos also said that more than 800 satellites will be launched by 2030. The number of Russian satellites has exceeded 1,000. This also shows Russia's resolve in space exploration and will not fall behind the United States. After all, Russia is also one of the global powers. The comprehensive strength does not lag behind the United States, especially in the aerospace field. Russia has a profound heritage. The United States also realizes this and has identified Russia as a key competitor in its own space development. Overall, although Russia has fewer satellites than the United States, but it is also the best in the world and will not be affected in any way. However, Russia is also currently facing a problem. That is, a lack of funding has hindered the launch of satellites. If the Russian-Ukrainian conflict continues, it remains to be seen whether Russia will be able to complete its satellite launch plan in the future. But it will definitely slow down his pace. I also hope that the conflict between the two sides will end soon, and peace will return to the lives of the people. Conclusion. From the perspective of the number of satellites in China, the United States, and Russia, the United States has an absolute advantage in the number of satellites. It also allows the United States to take the lead in the aerospace industry. But this does not mean that it is difficult for the United States to surpass. The breakthrough of China's space technology has also put pressure on the United States. In the future, the aerospace industry will also face many challenges, which will not only require satellites from various countries as a guarantee. It also requires the cooperation of all countries. Most importantly, China needs to be well prepared to meet these challenges. Enable your comprehensive strength to be further enhanced.